Hello guys, it's Sneaky Turtle back with another Kerbal Space Program video. In this video, I'll be building the lunar Starship, or Moonship. Just finishing up the fairing right now, and then I'm going to put these flags on. The reason I can put so many flags down as one is because I have a really awesome mod that I would recommend to most people. It's called Editor Extensions Redux, and it allows for multiple flags to be placed at once. Putting the lander inside of it so that will act as a hatch for Kerbals. I did end up making the fairing taller later on in the video, so I would recommend making your lunar starship a little taller than it was in this video. But now I'm using those little panels. I'm only going to put them on two sides, but they'll be like the windows for it. And I think they actually looked okay, because they don't have actual windows in this game, which is kind of odd, but finishing that up now, so it looks kind of decent. And then I'm going to put the little lander thing so that just acts as a hatch basically, and then it only goes on that one side. But like I said, I did end up making it taller, so right here it kind of looks squished together, but I ended up making it taller because it wasn't really tall enough. So now what I did here is I actually redid the fairing to make it a little taller. But whenever you redo the fairing, I don't know why, maybe it's just a glitch or something, but it will make all of the flags disappear, so I just did a little transition to reappear all the flags, because nothing really happened. Now putting the fuel tanks inside, the Kerbal fuel tanks, because this is a 5-meter fairing. So just throwing down a whole bunch of Kerbal fuel tanks. And then I put an adapter Kerbal fuel tank at the top. You probably don't need that much fuel, because its thrust to weight ratio is really low once it detaches from super heavy. Now I'm putting on the base for the engines. As far as I could tell, I could be completely wrong, but as far as I could tell, there weren't any sea level engines on Lunar Starship, so there's only the vacuum engines. And I'm using landing gear as landing gear, so the airplane landing gear actually look kind of cool. Obviously they can't be actually used, so I'm going to fix that later on in the video, but right now I'm putting on the side-mounted engines. I think this is kind of optional, because you could either just not put side-mounted engines on, you could put the side-mounted engines on like I'm doing it, but in the new renders it shows 24 engines, 24 landing engines. I just think that the 6 engines is cooler, so it's really just your choice what you want to do. But finishing up the placement of the thud engines, that's what they're called. And now I'm basically done with finishing up those. There we go, finished up. And now I'm going to start working on the landing gear. So the landing gear are fairly simple. I'm just going to take the landing gear out of the action group gear. I'm going to put a robotic hinge down, and I'm going to put a wing piece on it. And basically that will be the wing piece will be the landing gear, so that will allow us to land. Because in the new renders it shows 4 landing gear instead of what it was going to be before. It was going to be like 8 or 6 pistons sort of. But I'm set the angle to I think it was 0 to 130, so that way when I hit the gear button they will go down. And then I also set up an action group to lock it, because when they're folded down they have to be locked, otherwise they'll just kind of flatten out and they won't actually work as landing gear. So now finishing up those action groups, getting that all set up, and putting the crew in it. Now I'm going to put the vacuum engines on it. Just the 3 Wolfhound engines, because I didn't find anything that said that it had sea level engines. I'm putting a decoupler on it, just a 1 decoupler. and then I turn shroud off on the engine. And now I'm going to put a 5-meter fuel tank down, or a 5-meter fairing, sorry. And I just left it white. I don't think it's actually going to be white in real life. I think it'll be silver because they'll just put a normal super heavy booster on it. But, I don't know. I just thought it looked cooler. So now I'm making a little base in the newer models of the Starship Super Heavy. It is kind of widened out at the bottom to hold more engines because they want to put like 29 or 32 on it or something now. A lot of engines. Unfortunately, there wouldn't really be a way to fit that many engines, so I just ended up going with 14 Vector engines. And I think the 14 Vector engines look fine. But now just finishing up, and I put fuel tanks on the side like this, and the reason I feel like it was okay to do that is because I could have used 5-meter fuel tanks, but I didn't because I wanted to keep the white look of the fairing. So I thought it was probably okay to add some more fuel because there would have been a lot more fuel with the 5-meter tanks. So I just added some more fuel, added those wing pieces. Oh, sorry about that notification. But yeah, just adding lots of fuel now, like plenty of fuel. Now I'm adding what are they called? Werner engines. Basically, they'll help the super heavy booster flip around and go back to the KSC and land. Now we are crossfading to launch, getting ready for launch, lighting up 4 engines at first, hitting the spacebar, and then launching into the sky on our great adventure to the Mun. In this video, we'll be taking it to the Mun. A lot of this will be cut out, but most of it won't be. So, heading out to the Mun now. Just testing the landing gear there just to make sure everything was working. I did angle it much too steeply, so I had to redo the launch for to land super heavy, because if you did it like I did, where I kind of brought super heavy too far to the side, it doesn't have the fuel to go back. So now, on the top left is super heavy coming in for a landing. Super heavy is now getting very close to the ground. Starship has to keep a very steep ascent profile, though. Or the lunar Starship does, because its thrust-to-weight ratio is really low. Okay, and touchdown of the super heavy booster. And the lunar Starship is pushing its way into an orbit. Now this is highly sped up, just because the build time lapse is probably what you came here for. And I want to keep my videos pretty close to 10 minutes long. So, it still has to keep a very steep ascent profile, because if it doesn't, it will fall back down to Kerbin, because those wolfhounds really don't have that much power. So now just finishing up the orbit and getting ready to go to the Mun. Just firing up those engines one more time to push us into an orbit, and then I'm going to set up the maneuver node. So now the maneuver node is getting set up, and I'm just going to crossfade here because most people probably don't really care about the maneuver. So we're just heading out to the Mun. We got our transfer window, and then I'm doing a correction burn there. Sniffling, because I have allergies. But now, firing up the engines one more time to push the rocket into a low lunar? No, it wouldn't be lunar. Low lunar orbit, I think. And then coming in for a landing. This video, just to, like, sort of a disclaimer, I guess, sort of. I did forget to put an RTG inside of the Moonship, so I did have to put infinite electricity on so that the reaction wheels would still work. I don't think it was that bad, because putting an RTG is the same thing as activating infinite electricity, but just telling you guys. But now coming in for a landing on those landing engines, and I lock the landing gear, coming in for a landing. And I kind of hit the ground too hard, so it sort of wobbled. So I had to take off again. And then I had to come in for a little landing. But I think the landing engines look really cool. I just think the 24 is kind of weird. Of course, if you want to do that, you can, because, you know, whatever. But now, coming in for a landing, slowly coming down to the surface, and touchdown. Skidding along the surface a little bit, but, whatever. As the video now comes to an end, I would like to thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. I will see you in the next video. Bye.